Okay, next is our fearless leader and co-founder, Ms. Denise M. Baran Unland. Denise is, well, she always says she's the features editor for the Herald News. She's the whole damn features section for the Herald News. In Joliet, the author of the Bryony series, which I think is up to book 186 at this point, supernatural literary trilogy for young and new adults, along with 2 spin-off series for children and 1 cookbook of 1970s and Victorian recipes, which is a fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Will and Grundy counties. Tonight, she is going to be reading an excerpt from Before the Blood, the Bryony series prequel, which will be released in 2019. Denise.
So actually, I'm not reading from that because I couldn't find anything within the 3 minutes or something that wasn't a spoiler for the 2 or 3 people who will ever read it. I went through a short story that I had written one time that was kind of dark before I wrote the first novel to see if I could write something dark, and it was too long, and I tried cutting it down and it didn't make sense. So what I'm going to read is actually from the 3rd book, which is for sale, and I guess we're putting our things back there. I didn't, so but I do have a bag of some stuff if anybody's interested. And what it is I have one character. His name is John Peter, and he has just gone to the nursing home. There's a crisis of sorts, and he's demanding answers from someone who was his doctor, and the answers aren't to his liking. And so the part I'm reading here, since the chapter's fear and the topic's fear, and it's something that's a little dark. At this point, the doctor's name is Dr. Rothgard, kind of gives a little bit of his backstory. I suppose you've heard of Countess Elizabeth Bathory. Don't insult my intelligence. Not at all, my boy. I'm simply giving my strange little tale a beginning point. To look at me now, one would never know I once served Hungarian royalty. I don't believe you, John Peter said, but his voice lacked the resolve he no longer felt. Dr. Rothgard smiled. Shall I not continue? John Peter looked away and said nothing. The trouble began after the Count's death. Perhaps the loss of her husband caused the unraveling of the Countess's mind. As I'd been away from the castle for many months, I did not realize its horrors until my return, when a panic-stricken servant ambushed me on the way to see the Countess and shared them with me. With a firm hold on Iniko, I entered Countess Bathory's private chambers and beheld her gaily splashing about in a large vat of blood. I dropped the servant's arm, took 3 steps, and yanked the Countess from the tub. Grab a wrap, I shouted to the girl, who immediately fled for appropriate covering. Once I'd properly draped the Countess, I peered into feral eyes, seeking some semblance of the woman I'd known all these years. My God, Elizabeth, I cried, have you no fear for your immortal soul? But Elizabeth's eyes continued dancing with a strange light as she murmured, take a closer look and see for yourself if I don't wear the bloom of my youth. I examined her, amazed at the vibrancy of her smooth skin, now freed from the tiny lines that belied her true age. Elizabeth acknowledged my astonishment with a happy snarl, which hinted at the atrocities hidden in the bowels of the castle, where all but one of her servants refused to take me. Iniko led me down a remote staircase that even the servants avoided, as multitudes of rats had claimed it, never minding the treacherous dampness on the stairs or the dripping water behind the stone walls. The bottom led to a large bolted door. Iniko paused before it, crossed herself 3 times before she removed the barriers. In there, doctor, she said, stepping aside to allow me to pass. Nothing Iniko had previously said prepared me for the magnitude of Elizabeth's crimes. Hundreds upon hundreds of female bodies filled that dungeon and hung from hooks on the walls. Dead bodies, live bodies, mutilated bodies, and remnants of bodies, all with unholy terror frozen on their faces. Amongst the bruises, lacerations, and teeth marks were the holes Elizabeth's crews had drilled when they harvested their blood for the Countess's beauty ritual. Now, however monstrous this sounds, you have to remember your history, John Peter. Although medical science understood the significance of blood, it had not yet discovered how to manipulate its use to better man. Most of those early transfusions failed, but the ones that led to restored health intrigued me. Perhaps Elizabeth, in her wanton vanity, had stumbled upon the true fountain of life. I was about to leave when a low moan stopped me. Inako remained on the other side of the room. Her voice would not have carried these many yards. Had one of those poor souls returned from death to condemn me? I heard it again. Looking around, I beheld the piteous countenance of a young girl, she couldn't have been more than 17, chained to the wall and looking at me with bloodshot eyes of sheer fright. Her mouth worked, but no further sound issued forth. I reversed my course. "What do you wish, my girl?" I asked her. "So thirsty." Her gaze moved to the flask at my belt, so I removed it and held it up. "This?" She moaned again. I uncapped it and slowly poured its contents on the ground. Then I took a blade from the wall, held my flask under her chin, and slit her throat. When I finished the first draught, I refilled the jug and drank again. Elizabeth subsequently paid for her atrocities behind the walls of her own prison. I made certain of it. But I, being smarter, lived. Locating new sources of blood was not difficult, not with the abundance of workhouses and asylums, consistently requiring a doctor compassionate enough to enter them. The poor have many delightful ways of paying for their service, and given the circumstances, I could indulge all manner of delights without worrying about tarnishing my sterling reputation. How fortunate, John Peter, that the dead don't tell.